And welcome back here to the Publicos Asia Facebook program for part 2 of our special SONA coverage Publiko sa SONA. Ako si Arterio Relison Suat, kasama natin si Founder and Chief Executive Officer ng Publicos na si Maluti Kia and our Chief Data Scientist, Dr. David Yap. So, ayun, tapos na ang unang SONA ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Siguro, hingi lang ako ng konting reaction sa inyong dalawa. Ma'am Malu, how did you find the first SONA of President Marcos Jr.?
Well, sa unang-una ko, nagbibilang ako ng ilang minuto bago may pumalakpak. Sa tingin ko, masyadong mataas yung level ng diskurso ng ating Pangulo na ang mga kongresista parang nanibago kasi ang umpisa niya tungkol kaagad sa financial
Numero,
fiscal
no?
management, sunod-sunod. Parang pag pinan yung cameras dun sa mga kongresista, parang lahat sila nakatingin at malalim, hindi ko alam kung nag-iisip o nagulat sila sa breadth and depth ng ginawang presentation ng ating Pangulo. Tapos pumalakpak sila dun sa moment na sinabi yung tungkol sa mga hospital.
Yung
specialty hospital in every
kidney center, lung center, heart center.
So overall, yung SONA, iba ang pagtalakay niya kasi nagsimula siya dun sa fiscal, yung mga solusyon. Ginamit niya muna yung mga solusyon. Ginamit niya from fiscal to hanggang GDP, hanggang middle class by 2024. Doon medyo ako nagulat. He talked a lot about the value chain, and then emphasis on the market to farm to market roads. Ang issue ko lang doon sa farm to market roads, kung wala ngang ani, bakit maglalaan ka ng pondo sa farm to market roads, no? Malaking bagay yung sinabi niya, 52,000 hectares undistributed, at ginawa niya yung ibibigay ito doon sa mga landless veterans, landless military, police. Sa akin, ang una kong palakpak siguro doon sa brand Filipino. Doon sa Filipino brand, no? Yung Filipino brand, sinabi niya doon, yung turismo, it will spark the sense of pride and identity because the Filipino brand is unique, attractive, and creative. Sa tingin ko, yun yung bagong driver ngayon ng ating ekonomiya apart from the OFW at saka sa BPO, yung talagang tulong ng investment sa turismo. Gusto ko rin yung sinabi niya sa DSWD. Parang iniba na niya ngayon yung DSWD, yung notion ng DSWD. Pero sa akin may problema yon dahil paano naman yung Disaster Risk and Reduction Office, no? Yung DRRMO. Kasi ang sinabi niya doon sa DSWD, dapat mabilis na pagtulong, i-preposition yung mga family food packs, mag-create emergency shelter program, at ituloy yung AIX. Sa tingin ko, malaking pondo ang iyong pinag-uusapan dito mula sa 5 trillion, baka sakaling ang GAA natin, ay baka ang submit niya based doon sa sinabi niyang fiscal management initiatives niya, baka umabot tayo ng 7 trillion para lang magawa itong mga ito. Hindi niya nabanggit ang TESDA. Ang tingin ko, ang mindset ng Pangulo ay nandun pa rin sa academic degrees at hindi binibigyan ng tuon yung upskilling, reskilling through a non-academic program. He talked about agile bureaucracy. I like the infra of PRRD will continue and it will be expanded. And he made a pitch for railways. Malaking pondong igugugol doon. Kasi yung last nating he was talking of the old railway tracks, pwede pa rin, pero again, maraming pondo doon. Pinalakpakan ng matindi ang kanyang foreign policy. Tumayo ang mga liderato natin tungkol doon sa foreign policy niya. Sinabi niya, I will not abandon any piece of territory to any power. I think that is a very strong declaration by our 17th president that it will remain to be that we will have an independent foreign policy, and the independent foreign policy is defined by our national interest. Apart from that, natuwa naman ako dun sa trick, yung creative trick na ginawa niya na ang kanyang legislative agenda ay nasa huli. So parang ginulat niya muna lahat, tapos parang sinabi niya sa mga congressman, hindi, ito nga actually ang listahan ko at nandiyan yung inyong mga gusto. Parang ganon. Nagustuhan ko na sa dulo nagsalita siya directly sa Pilipino na kahit maikli lamang yung sinabi niya, pero mas gugustuhin ko sanang yun ay tinagalog nang naintindihan ng lahat, kasi napakaganda yung sinabi niyang we will endure, at saka yung sinabi niya the state of the nation is sound. Hindi niya claim na napakaganda ng ating estado. Soundness means meron siyang basihan, at yun ay linatag niya sa simula hanggang sa ito ang kailangan kong legislative agenda, at kung maisagawa natin yan, yung sound, the state of our nation is sound, can be a lot better kung masimulan natin yon. So ako'y natutuwa, pero yung shock na sa daming numero na sinabi, na alam mo naman ang Kongreso, hindi naman yan a number crunching institution. So yung brownie points na sinabi niya para patikim sa mga legislative na andon from your infra, ilang beses niya sinabi yung infra. So ako'y nagulat na ibang-iba ang kanyang pagbuo ng kanyang State of the Nation address. Very heavy on numbers. So talagang kailangan sigurong balikan yon at basahin muli para matagni-tagni natin saan ba kukunin yung pondo para dito.
At lalo na para suriin ng maayos yung mga ambitious targets talaga na nabanggit niya. Kung maalala natin, tama ba sabi niya upper middle income by 2024, 2 years from now.
Yes.
Medyo ambitious yung goal na yun.
So single digit poverty
by 2028,
9%.
tapos ang term niya.
So I hope maambisyon yung kanyang state, yung aspirational niya mataas. Hopefully lahat magtulong-tulong para maabot natin yun.
At babalikan din natin mamaya yung maglaro kami ng game para sa inyo doon sa priority legislative measures ni PBBM. Pero bago tayo pumunta doon, gusto ko muna tanungin si Dr. Yap, si David. Ikaw naman, David, ano yung reflections mo, ano yung assessment mo ng first SONA ni Pangulong Marcos Jr.?
I was expecting something different from PBBM when comparing it, of course, to PRRD. Kasi syempre, I have to admit that medyo na-miss ko yung mga mad libs ni PRRD, na yung mga off the cuff, yung hindi mo, para mapapaganong ka na lang habang nanonood ka dun sa SONA. Sinabi niya yun, man. But this was a very controlled, yun nga, as we said earlier, it's a very technical survey. And as someone, a graduate of statistics, a practitioner of statistics, as Ma'am Malu has said, I love this kind of SONA because the parameters of the plan are laid out. Like, for example, yun nga, 6.9 real GDP growth, a 9% poverty rate at the end of his term. And he even spoke about how much he intends to reduce the debt to GDP ratio, the deficit, and all that. And all of these I appreciate. For me, the high points of the SONA would include his mention of economic liberalization. I am a fan of that. I am highly supportive of that. And of course, the mention of the construction of nuclear power plants. And I think that PBBM did his homework when it comes to energy policy, because not just mentioning nuclear, of course, that was the big thing that people, I think, would glom onto with his SONA, but he also mentioned things about the importance of improving our transmission infrastructure. As I would just like to relay that one of the biggest problems in our energy sector for the longest time has been the inability of plants in one regional group to send electricity to another regional group. Like, for example, if there is an overabundance of electricity in Visayas, because of their wealth of solar power solar farms, they cannot readily send that electricity to Metro Manila, for example, because of bottlenecks in the transmission line. And one problem with the Visayan grid is that it is not interlinked with the Mindanao grid. So all of these fixing these issues would serve to make electricity more available. So the availability problem is addressed, and of course making it more affordable. And it's also of note that he mentioned something about electric cooperatives. This has long been a problem. If you're wondering why there are vast differences in electricity prices from one province to another, a large part of that is because of the inability, the failure of a lot of electric cooperatives to negotiate, to find the appropriate contracting sort of portfolios to that would make electricity cheaper for their service areas. Now, for the low points, well, I would like to point out that he mentioned the imposition of new taxes or VAT for digital services. I would outright say that I am not a fan of that, because I am not a fan of new taxes. And given that these sort of services are still in their infancy, imposing new taxes on them may prematurely or prematurely halt their development or stunt their development moving forward. Just one more final note about his point on stronger healthcare. While his commitment to stronger healthcare is something that I am open to, I think that it's important to look into how we are going to be funding the proposed healthcare expansion. So I think that we have to reconsider the concept of single payer and the incentive structures involved with how we pay for public health care, because at the end of the day we need people to buy into the system. It's not something that is sustainable in the long run if we just intend for the government to provide for everything. It's not, the government should be there as like a last resort, but people should be equipped. They should have some individual responsibility when it comes to making decisions. And I think that people will agree that it feels unfair that someone who has made poor health decisions throughout his life would get the same health care as someone who has more or less been careful with his or her lifestyle. So these are the kinds of considerations that we have to factor in whenever we talk about something as important as healthcare.
I think for me, from the perspective of a political speechwriter, and of course, I love the optics of it. Napakagaling talaga ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos mag-speech, no? His formal speech, as you said, it's a different style from our former President Duterte, and nakakamiss nga sa totoo lang minsan, his interjections and his off-the-cuff remarks. But it was interesting to see a very well-structured, a very deliberative SONA, no? Yun yung pinag-uusapan namin ni Mama Lu kanina habang nanonood. Parang
It reflects his persona.
he's a deliberative kind of person. He wants to do the research, put things in the right place before acting. Kaya, actually, throughout most of the speech, nagtatanong kami ni Mama Lu, nasaan na ba yung mga gusto niya, yung mga, I call on Congress to pass this, that bill.
Diba?
Tapos biglang hinuli niya, one by one, parang,
Tapos nakita rin natin yung controlled anger nung sinabi niya yung sa agriculture. So, pero it would have had an impact kung talagang tinutuon niya na yung pagkagalit niya, yung na-discoveryhan niya. So, 2 points on what David said, no? Yung tungkol sa PPP. Paulit-ulit siya. Mukhang ang modality ngayon is PPP. Hindi na yung katulad ni Presidente na inalis niya sa PPP at kineri niya sa GAA yung part ng ating exposure as a Republic of the Philippines. Ang isa pa akong natatawa na hindi ko maintindihan, yung sa connectivity, kasi sinabi niya yung full array of, sige, kahit fiber optics yan, submarine kwan, basta magkaroon tayo ng malakas ang ating connectivity. At minandohan niya si DICT Secretary na marami kang trabaho kasi kahit yung common tower, sinabi rin niya. I mean, ito yung presidente na sa akin, ang comment ko nga kanina kay Aurelio, hindi na dapat niyo yan pag-usapan kasi details na eh. Di ba, dati sa atin yung SONA, ang natatandaan kong ganyan ka-specific si PGMA. Pero yung ipinipaint mo lang, kumbaga may empty canvas ka, ipipaint mo lang yung vision mo, ano ba ang gusto mo sa bansa mo. Pero ito, napaka-detalye.
Ang tingin ko, ma'am, dyan, ito, theory lang, pero parang sinasagot ni PBBM yung mga kritiko niya nung campaign. Kasi ang pagbabati ko sa kanya, wala siyang sinasabi tungkol sa policy, di ba? Walang plataforma, puro ano lang. Pero itong unang SONA, yun nga, parang technical report, yung first 5 to 10 minutes, numero. Nakita mo yung ibang attendees, parang...
mga congressman, parang sabi ko, na-shock sila. Biro mo sinabi 20% of GDP for disbursement, parang lahat sila nagaganunan. Sabi ko, naku, naintindihan kaya?
Nag-flashback sila dun sa public finance class nila nung undergrad.
Just to add, ma'am, naalala ko tuloy since you mentioned PGMA, I was in high school when she was president, and I remember being tasked, homework po namin yun, SONA, you have to listen to it, you have to write a report. And I remember that GMA SONAs were loaded with details, but then I am actually quite glad that I'm no longer in high school because
no, you appreciate it more?
Because this no ma'am, this is even more loaded. Like I would that would be a very difficult report to write given how richly textured the SONA was with all of the details. And trying to summarize all of it would be a daunting task for a high school student, I would think.
Kung ako yung estudyante, kakabahan na ako para sa exam bukas o sa quiz bukas, no?
Kaya tuwing pinapan, sabi ko kay Aurelio, ako, pustahan tayo, hindi na yan naintindihan. Kasi yung gulpi de gulat, I mean, sa atin, nasanay tayo kay Duterte mura. Saka shock to your senses. Ito, shock and awe at the details. If you're able to compute the impact to the minute detail, parang, sandali lang, wag mo ko questionin kasi pinag-aralan talaga namin. So, ang takeaway, dun sa mga policy wonk, tayong tatlo, nagtrabaho tayo at one point or another sa Kongreso, we will appreciate this. But again, for those who are nakikinood ng TV, magsusona si Presidente sa sari-sari store. Yung umpisa talagang, ano daw? Diba? So kailangan mo talagang habaan ang pasensya mo hanggang umabot ka dun sa punto na specialty hospitals in every province.
Ma'am, at least nga
palakpakan, klaro yun.
Oo.
Meron ng YouTube, pwede mo i-rewind.
Pwede i-rewind, oo.
At pwede mong i-slow down,
Oo.
75%.
Oo. So,
pero ma'am, I think strategy nga yun na you start with that kind of yung salvo niya na with all of these technical details, all of these numbers, and then once the audience was sufficiently stunned, he then says na ito yung mga gusto ko. It's I think it was as we have said earlier, it's deliberate. There's that strategy underlying the structure of the SONA.
Tapos wala siyang Congress, I need the following. Kumbaga, parang, na-shock and awe na ako, ayoko nang makinig dahil ang dami. Pagkatapos biglang linintahan niya, number 1. At saka talagang sinasabi niya, number 1, number 2, number 3. So technically, he has 20 legislative measures that he wants Congress to act on. Some will receive, others were like they were stunned, no? To may ganun tayo, may ganun. So we noticed, Aurelia and I noticed that there were some legislators writing. Then at the end, tumigil na talaga. Binabaan na. Oo.
Papasahin daw yung kopya bukas pag na-post na sa media.
Diba? Ipapabasa sa staff.
At saka ang nakatutuwa, 2 beses na, ang inaugural speech niya walang leak. Itong SONA walang leak. So my sense is hindi katulad ng iba na ibibigay para paghandaan ang tanong. So let's see in the coming days kung sino sa kanyang kabinete ang mag-explain. Kasi ang dami doong nuance eh. Ang dami rin problematic when it comes to the percentage to this and the actual number. So magandang makita kung paano nila i-communicate yan pababa.
Yung economic team, ma'am, tingin ko hindi makakatulog mamaya with these numbers, with targets.
Kasi pag sinuma total mo yun, Bago dumating doon sa specialty hospitals in every province, biro mo yung specialty hospital, ang bulong ko nga kay Aureli, saan kayang regional capital ilalagay yan? Yung specialty hospitals.
Awayan yan.
Awayan yan, turf.
Kaya
diba?
lakas ng
Kaya
palakpakan.
ang lakas
ng
ng
iba.
palakpakan, tumayo pa eh, di ba? Kaya sabi ko, okay. So, sa tingin ko mahihirapan ng economic team. Not that we're saying hindi na bet ng economic team. It's just that if you put together, I counted 8. I don't know if that is exact. Na nakapeg talaga at GDP. Medyo mahihirapan. That means our economy should grow beyond 6%. He was talking of 9%.
Ang main takeaway, one of my main takeaways, lalo na for the economic side, is magtataas talaga ng fees. These are expensive programs, no? I mean, maraming magagandang program, no, na nabanggit ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. Pero mahal eh. So baka nga ma'am, sabi niyo nga kanina sa part 1 ng live stream natin, baka tumaas to 6 or 7 trillion yung budget. Hindi ba lang yung mangyari
plan,
yun? Lalo na, napag-usapan natin kanina yung ayuda. Marami din ayuda pa rin na nakalagay dito sa budget or mukhang babudgetin pa sa susunod na taon.
Maganda rin yung sense of predictability and stability noong infra projects na pagpapatuloy niya yung nasimulan at nasa pipeline nung dating administrasyon. Malakas rin ang palakpakan doon sa Mindanao Railway ng products and people. So tingnan natin ang hindi masyadong hindi na masyadong na-mention rin yung katulad nga nung isa na nag-react sa ating Facebook page, yung walang masyado sa war on drugs at saka yung
walang nabanggit mo.
NTCA.
NTF.
The communist insurgency.
Yan, wala rin yun. So, hindi natin alam kung bakit. Siguro may rason. Let the administration explain that further.
Siguro ma'am, sa sobrang dami nang nabanggit.
Hindi, at saka na-check-in o ka na doon. Saan mo i-insert, di ba?
Oo. I mean, hindi natin kayang i-discuss lahat, no? Pero siguro punta na lang muna tayo dun sa priority legislative measures ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. So maglalaro tayo ng game, no? Or hindi naman siya game, pero maglalagay or papakita lang namin yung star rating namin for itong listahan ng mga priority legislative measures na hinihingi ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. sa Kongreso ngayon 19th Congress. So medyo general lang naman siya. Kung babanggitin ko yung title ng bill, tapos kung 1 star, ibig sabihin yan, hindi ka sure, hindi mo masyadong gusto, or hindi ka masyadong pabor, or ano ba, it's not your favorite proposal, gano'n. Kung 2 stars naman ang ipapakita, that means okay naman siya, or baka may mga issues pa, but in principle, okay siya, or okay siya sa title, kasi yung iba, walang paliwanag, title lang ng bill, no? Baka yung number 2, sounds good, pero we need more information kung ano talaga yung bill na yun. And of course, 3 is yung pak na pak, go na go yan, bill na yan, sana pumasa na. At well, kayo na, nasa inyo na yun, kung gusto nyo taasan pa yung ratings nyo. Sige, kung gusto nyo, maghiraman tayo ng stars para gusto mo 10 star ito. Sige. So simulan natin sa number 1 at nabanggit naman ito ni Pangulong Marcos nung inauguration pa lang. This is the National Government Right Sizing Program.
Hindi, mali.
Alin po? So yun, 3 stars kaming lahat. Napag-usapan nga kanina sa first part 1 ng live stream na there are really some things that need to be streamlined sa ating government bureaucracy. Kailangan i-streamline, bawasan naman. Cut the fat.
At
It has to go on the
muli galing sa PUBLiKO, salamat Speaker Romualdez, at binawasan ninyo ang Deputy Speaker, no? From 32 to 6.
Opo. So number 2 naman, Budget Modernization Bill. Hindi ako masyadong sure kung ano to exactly, pero tama. Okay. May gusto mo bang comment? Kailangan. Oo. Bakit kayo nag-3, Mamalu?
Aba, sa akin, any modernization sa budget supported. Ganun kasimple.
Sa kaya ilang beses nabanggit ni PBBM, no? Ikaw, bakit 2 stars, David?
because modernization, mas gusto ko is simplification.
Cut the budget now.
Bukod sa cut the budget, it has to be even simplified.
Oo.
Yun nga, it flows directly from yung right sizing. You have to have fewer government agencies, smaller government agencies, leaner government agencies.
Siguro kailangan natin mag-print ng t-shirt na para kay David. Mag-diet ka na, gobyerno, para bibenta kaya yun.
Hindi.
So number 3, valuation reform bill. Ito yata yung sa real property tax, no?
Tax.
So, pwede mo ba, parang hindi ko narinig masyado ito. Ano nga ito?
I think they just want to update and to sort of create a more comprehensive set of definitions for the valuation of real properties.
In short, yung market value.
The market value, kasi maraming awayan lagi kung ano ba ang valuation ng lupa when it comes to taxes. So I would say that with the good intentions, I'm gonna say yes. Wait, 3. I like
Oops,
it.
wait lang. 3 nga pa. Okay.
Madaya itong ating moderator. Gaya-gaya.
Pagkaya-gaya.
I like.
Diba? Kayo ho, ano sa tingin nyo, no?
Oo. Sige.
No?
Kung meron kayong mga comments or for example, may nagustuhan kayo sa SONA, may hindi kayo nagustuhan, ilagay niyo lang sa comments. Tingnan natin kung ang staff natin ay kakayanin ilagay dito sa screen. Mukhang nagka-thumbs up ang aming director. So, sige, game lang. Pero punta muna tayo sa number 4, Passive Income and Financial Intermediary Taxation Act. I'm gonna give this one.
Ako gusto ko.
Ayaw ko.
Oh, yan. May 1 star dito kay David,
Ayaw
may 3 stars dito kay Malu. Ma'am Malu, bakit 3 stars kayo?
Aba, enough time na ang passive income, hindi mo naman pinagkakakitaan yan. Pagkakitaan ng gobyerno. Natutulog lang dun eh.
Because these are new taxes on the supposedly disposable income of consumers, and I would want the people who work for their money to keep more of their money, not less.
Nakikita niyo na ang PUBLiKO hindi siya monolith. Meron kaming kanyang-kanyang political views on
yan.
different ends of the political
At
spectrum.
respetuhan kami, hindi kami nagbabardagulan.
Kaya kaya naman makipag-usap sa politika na respectful lang.
Diba sabi nga ni Presidente, kung hindi tayo mag-agree, usap pa, hanapin ang consensus. Again, very deliberative ang ating Pangulo.
Ibang yung style niyo, ibang yung style po. Number 5, hindi masyado malinaw din ito, yung e-government act. Ito ba yung, ano ito?
I think it pertains to the
Transactions.
Transactions with the government. So modernization, less bureaucratic red tape. So definitely it's something
Less human intervention.
Correct.
Go tayo dyan.
Pwede ba hindi natin kailangan magbayad sa mga land bank over the counter?
Tama.
Oo.
May land bank ka pa rin.
Alam nyo kaya, pwede ba
Boy,
sabihin,
yung land bank mo?
di ba may isang gateway na lahat ng tao yun ang ginagamit at nag-shoot, nalulugi na yung telcom yun, pero nag-shoot up dahil doon sa gateway nila.
Kasi
Yung ganon.
maganda yan para sa consumers, para sa citizens kasi mas mabilis. Maganda rin naman yun sa gobyerno kasi kung madali lang magbayad, di ba magbabayad yung mga tao, di ba?
Hindi yung papahirapan mo sila. At saka kung tutusin, hindi na dapat yung kailangan mong mag-leave para meron kang kailangan na kunin na documents sa gobyerno, kailangan mong magbayad, kailangan mong mag-leave. Lugi rin yung taong bayan doon kasi kailangan nilang bawas sweldo, bawas kita, productive time. Kung pwede naman palang GCash or bank transfer.
Hindi ko kami humihingi
Gcash. or yung mga
unidentified
kahit yung mga palawat, yung
express padala.
Sige, bagitin mo na lahat para walang favoritism.
Lahat ng mga ganon.
Diba? Nagiging innovative ang Pilipino dahil may problema sa transaksyon sa gobyerno. Kaya kung ang gobyerno ay magiging innovative, di siyempre, mas lalo magtatransak ang Pilipino sa inyo na hindi na pahirapan. So again, siguro ang takeaway doon, dapat parating customer
is always right?
Hindi naman customer is always right kasi may mga pilosopong Pilipino.
May mga maling customer dito.
Customer-centric kayo. Kung minsan mystery shopper ho ang gobyerno nang makita nyo kung gaano kalawsi minsan ang serbisyo.
Saka po ma'am, dagdag lang na kung e-government nga yung fewer face-to-face transactions, yung automated na mas konti rin yung mga pagkakataon yung nung mga mandurugas, yung mga gustong yung mga under the table kasi
Mga fixer,
diretso na,
ganun.
hindi na you sort of sidestep the whole problem with fixers, diretso na dumiretso na yung pondo, hindi na yung dadaan sa kung sino-sino para yung bibigyan ng pampadulas, okay na yon, diretso na yung
Pero ang experience ko sa local government, ano unang sinisira? Computers.
Bakit ba?
Para hindi maging successful yung e-government.
Well, kailangan din siguro natin na...
Kailangan natin pag-iisipan.
Pag-iisipan.
Nakita nyo ha? Yan
Pangalawang
si Dr.
t-shirt
Yap.
na yan. Kala nyo, seryoso yan.
Mahilig sa mga jokes.
Nagjo-joke lang din yan. Basta, let's go to number 6, Internet Transactions Act / E-commerce Law. Tax ba to?
Oo, yung mga internet transactions, yung mga everything from online games. Ayaw ko yan. Ayaw ko yan. Kasi
Wag na ho natin pakialman ang pwedeng maayos. Isang sistema lamang ang pwedeng maayos sa atin. Ikaw gusto mo?
Hindi, ako magsa 2 stars lang kasi gusto ko makita kung bakit kailangan.
revenue.
In the mix, di ba? Kasi package naman yung tax reform. So kung kailangan talaga siya.
Kasi si taxman, parang pag hindi naman kailangan ng government intervention, nandun parati si taxman. Parang yung kunyari, biro mo, o-order ka lang online, gusto ni taxman, nandun siya. Napakahirap noon kasi yung pag nakikita mo sa marketplace, kuminsan trust Trust at saka yung barter. There's this good, you want to get this. So, maraming ganung mga bagay na kailangan pag-aralan, wag basta-basta.
Okay, number 7 is government financial institutions unified initiatives to discuss basically
In short,
ayuda sa MSMEs, di ba?
nagbibigay ng tulong. Yes, tayo dyan.
Yes, tayo dyan. Okay.
At sana ito ang gawing priority. Ayaw mo rin, being consistent lang ho si Dr.
Consistent
David.
lang.
Ayuda na naman kasi.
Pero paano kung technology transfer, mga ganon, things na capacity building
Tsaka unified initiative naman, hindi naman sinabi financial.
Okay.
Baka
gawin natin to.
Or di ganito lang, how could we, paano siya magiging possible or at least acceptable sa'yo, David, as our resident economic conservative?
If it was designed in such a way that there would be repayment at the end of the day to make it sustainable, in the sense that the firms that benefit from it, once they get ahead, once they establish themselves, they can pay it forward. Baka yun yung
pay it forward.
They can pay it forward na ngayon nahirapan ako, kailangan kong mag-draw down, I need to draw down from this unified fund or whatever it is. Di pwede ko ngayon sabihin na pag nakabangon na ako, kumikita na ako, I can repay it, so that other firms down the road can benefit from the same kind of system and to make the system sustainable.
Maganda yun.
Agree ako doon.
Bago tayo pumunta sa number 8 sa list, meron tayong comment or question mula sa Facebook natin from Jeriel Paul Aika Abayon. Ang tanong niya ay, may script ba si BBM kanina o kabisado niya? Parang kabisado kasi.
Ito na naman yung makabagbag damdaming debate kung merong teleprompter o hindi. Di ba kanina nung nag-umpisa tayo, sinabi ko may teleprompter?
May teleprompter naman si PBBM. Yun yung nakita nyo. Kung yung shot niya na sa likod niya, yun yung nakikita ng dalawa dyan. Pero, hindi natin sinasabi na hindi niya kabisado yung speech. Kabisado niya din yung speech niya. Kahit may teleprompter ka, you won't deliver it that well unless talagang alam mo yung speech. Sabi din ng ES niya na si PBBM ang mismo nagsusulat ng speech niya, no? So, kabisado naman niya. Pero, yun nga, meron siyang teleprompter para lang to guide him lang habang nagsispeech siya. Thank you sa question nyo. At kung may mga tanong pa kayo, mag-message lang kayo, mag-comment lang kayo sa aming live stream. So, moving on to number 8, priority legislative measures ni PBBM, Medical Reserve Corps. Okay naman, okay to. David, bakit 2 stars yung sa'yo?
Okay lang. Sabi mo, okay.
Kala ko bastos na naman.
Okay, number 9, National Disease Prevention Management Authority.
Wala pa ba tayong ganyan?
Ma'am, hindi ma'am, kasi prevention to ma'am eh. Most of the government health services are oriented towards treating diseases, not preventing.
Kasi mas gusto ko yung Virology Institute kaysa dyan sa disease prevention. Pero sige, for health, one of the lessons we learned in the pandemic is really to be prepared before the crisis happens. So, ba't ka naman
Ako 2.
gastos?
Gastos na naman ma'am.
Bureaucracia.
Bagong ano na naman ma'am. And I think
Hindi ko alam kung kailangan eh.
we have to start looking at individual responsibility. So sabi niyo nga ma'am, sa pandemic, I think that people have also learned important lessons on their own na they have to take better care of their health. And I think that the first stakeholder is the person itself. So I don't think that we should need the government to tell us to take care of our health. It starts with us.
Ay, ako magpapalit rin ako. Tama yung sinabi ni David, no? Ako mas gusto ko na nasa local yan. Yung community involved. Kasi nakita natin sa pandemya, talagang community ang mahalaga. Hindi nga ho frontline dapat ang mga medical personnel, dapat ang barangay. Kaso, malaking problema ho ang barangay natin, tsaka na lang natin pag-usapan sa susunod.
Tapos may barangay elections.
Tama, piliin nyo yung tama, ha?
Kung matutuloy, ha?
To be determined.
Pag-usapan din yun. Sige, number 10. Ito yung gusto ni Ma'am Malu. The creation of the Virology Institute of the Philippines. Ako 3 stars ako doon just because sana makagawa tayo ng sarili nating vaccines. Ganun, di ba? Research and development
Very
lang.
talented ang Pilipino ho. Kayang-kaya natin yung magawa. I mean, kahit nga yung mga ano nga yung mga dahon-dahon ng mga gamot.
Malunggay ba?
Malunggay.
Hindi lang malunggay.
Moringa ba?
Basta yung involved sa pandemya. Meron silang pinandyan eh.
Hindi ko
Basta one of those. So marami na ho tayong discovery. Kailangan lang talaga magkaroon ng scientific way of doing things. Bakit ka naman 2?
Akala ko nga 1. Bakit 2,
Sorry,
David?
two pala.
Ganun lang. Okay.
Kasi
Okay lang, but apart from that, ma'am, I think that at the end of the day, we can't legislate innovation. There's a certain relationship between the incentive structure within the private sphere that cannot be replicated by the government or central planning. And I think that while this could be a step in the right direction, I am not confident that the government would be able to legislate, as I said, innovation.
Well, I mean, as long as you're creating the correct kinds of institutions and stuff, I guess. Depende rin naman yun.
I'm inclined to think that it's more the profit orientation for the innovation should be driven by profit.
But there's
this very
profit.
There's this very interesting anecdote that I'd like to share. When they were trying to figure out the airplanes, yung sa Wright brothers, the US government spent enormous amounts of money to fund yung research, state-funded research on the creation of airplanes, and the aircraft that they were able to create could not get off the ground. That's why they said that it couldn't be done. But the Wright brothers, through their own innovation, mechanics, these are bicycle mechanics, and they were able to get their aircraft off the ground. They were able to create a manned aircraft. So I think that's the important thing. It's not about putting money into a pot and hoping that something will come out of it. There has to be that sort of tension between the threat of bankruptcy and say the drive to innovate. Because if you have secure government funding, there's also that lack of impetus. So that's why I'm worried about this Virology Institute.
Number 11 is the Department of Water Resources. Number 1 si Ma'am Malu, ako din.
Wala tayo.
Parang hindi natin alam kung kailangan.
They agree.
Kayo ba, ma'am? Bakit kayo 1 star lang doon?
Another department to do what? Hindi nga natin maayos-ayos. Ayusin muna natin yung franchise area. Pag naayos natin, may proof of concept tayo, then let's see. Kasi kung ito ay usaping bulk water lamang, it's useless to do a department kasi kinukunan mo ng poder ang local government dyan sa
Yeah.
usaping yan.
And yun nga, parang kung gagawa tayo ng bagong department na naman, nagka-clash yun dun sa right sizing na gusto ng mangyari. Diba? We want to streamline the bureaucracy. But of course, may major caveat dyan. Kung paliwanag nila, if they can defend why we need this Department of Water Resources, then why not? Pero sa ngayon, I'm not sure.
I don't see that.
Yeah, I don't see the need for this particular. Number 12 is a unified system of separation, retirement, and pension.
No.
Yep. Parang wala namang sira sa system.
I think it's like they're also asking for more problems. They're asking for more headaches if they try to unify the various
Trust funds.
Yeah. And as we were talking about earlier, ma'am, it runs the risk of having the underperforming funds infect
the
better performing funds. So with that kind of contagion, you're asking for trouble down the road. I would think.
And I go back to our experience on the portability law between GSIS and SSS. That hasn't proven to be a good cure for those members who are transferring from private to government. So my sense is you let each organization with their own trust fund handle their own actuarial needs and gain from proper investment of their funds. Again, we were discussing about AFSLI and you mentioned another SLI.
AMSLI.
So all this SLI, it's not going to be, we're not curing the problem by having a unified system. So iba ang police, iba ang military, iba ang private sector, iba ang government.
Just to add, I think it's also important to acknowledge that the Philippine economy has become sophisticated enough to allow for the emergence of private pension funds. So there is this opportunity for people to take on more individual responsibility, even in their choices when it comes to their retirement fund, their pension, their and their investments, and sort of calling for this unification. I think is a departure from that.
Before we move to number 13 on the list, meron tayong isa pang katanungan galing sa Facebook from Obet House Monarch. Did President Marcos, mention the drug war and NSA/insurgency?
No.
No, he did not. Hindi nabanggit. As far as I know, no? Hindi nabanggit ni Pangulong Marcos yon. So of course, those are two of the banner programs of his predecessor,
which in our
president.
survey was well received.
Yes, and thank you, ma'am. In our second quarter pahayag survey, this was done June 16 to 22, 2022. Meron kaming tinest na 5 programa ni Pangulong Duterte. Tinanong namin kung gusto bang ituloy or i-continue yung mga programang ito. We tested Build, War on Illegal Drugs, Independent Foreign Policy, BARM Transition, and the NTF-ELCA.
Wala rin mention sa BARM.
So, two of these programs were directly mentioned, of course, ang Build, pinuri pa ni Pangulong Marcos.
Ipagpapatuloy.
Oo, at ipagpapatuloy. All of the projects, walang magka-cancel. 79% ng aming respondents ay sumasang-ayon sa pag-continue ng Build infrastructure program. Meanwhile, 73% support or approve or strongly approve of the continuation of the war on drugs. Of course, this doesn't say in what form, no? Pwede naman rehabilitation form, more rehabilitation heavy, etc. Hindi ito nabanggit ng SONA. Independent foreign policy, continuation of this, at nabanggit ni President Marcos Jr. Actually, one of his best sound bites that he will not abandon even a square inch of territory to any foreign power. That's 68% naman. For BARM, hindi nabanggit, 64%, and 56% say they approve or strongly approve of the continuation of the NTF-LCAC. So ito yung anti-communist, anti-insurgency. Sige, number 13. Kanina napag-usapan natin yung E-Government Act. Ngayon naman yung E-Governance Act. Anong
What
pinagkaiba
is
nitong
the
dalawa?
E-Governance Act? So I'm gonna say I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not...
Pag ito ay katulad ng Estonia, ako'y ako'y 3. Pag katulad ng Estonia,
What is the
thesis na yun, ma'am.
Estonia?
Sige,
sa Estonia kasi isang kwan lang yun, isang programa na meron siyang 6 mirror sites treated as embassies outside of Estonia. So isang platform lang ho siya, nagsishare sila, na-mention ni Presidente, magsishare ng mga data, pero ang Estonia maliit at madaling i-set up. Sa Pilipinas na island, na iba-iba ang level ng appreciation ng technology, napakahirap i-set up yan. So kung yung e-governance mo link sa right sizing, link sa e-government, pwede mag-fly. Pwede mo kasing i-link yan sa right sizing. Pero right now, dahil hindi klarado at wala tayong detalye, siguro magiging we are in the side of caution.
Sa number 14 na tayo at alam ko na papahiram ko to sa iyo, ma'am. Kasi
hindi,
number...
lima ako dyan.
Yun nga, baka gusto niyo pa, ang favorite na bill ni ma'am ay yung National Land Use Act. Napag-usapan na namin ito kanina.
Pwede ba 10?
Ito, lahat ng stars para daw sa National Land Use Act. 3 stars din si David, ako 3 stars. Bakit tayong nag-agree talaga dito
Kasi
sa...
dyan nagmumula lahat ng planning. Kung walang, imaginein mo ngayon, since 8th Congress yan, ang 8th Congress, 1987, ilang taon na. Hindi na pa-file. Oo, ako nagtatrabaho na gano'ng katanda ako. No? Hindi, naipa-file pero hindi umuusad. Umuusad sa House, hindi umuusad sa Senado dahil sa isang senador. Ma'am, huwag kang magagalit sa akin, pero pabayaan mo na. Alam mo nang magpas itong national land use o yung...
Please, to our Facebook viewers, can anyone guess who?
Bibigyan namin kayo ng talent.
Bibigyan kayo ni ma'am ng mug. Ay, may mug ba tayo?
Naaawa naman ako sa bansa kung ito ay napipigilan lamang ng isang senador. Napakahalaga ho yan kasi hindi tayo pwede magplano. Makikita mo meron kang zoning na pang business zone, residential zone, halo-halo. So kung may land use ho, klarado, alin ang poder ng gobyerno, alin ang poder ng pribado, ano ang pang-turismo. Imagine niyo ho, 81 provinces tayo. Kung may land use lahat ho ang bawat probinsya, ma-identify nila yung ecotourism site. Mahalaga ho yun. Kasi yun para sa benepisyo ng probinsya. So ako, ma'am, panahon na para ipasa ang land use bill.
Parang ayon sa aking bubwit.
Ayon sa iyong bubwit, sino yun?
May isang senadora.
Ma'am, huwag ka magagalit. Wala namang
Sino kaya yun?
personalan ito. Para lang po ito sa bayan.
So, moving on sa moving on sa number 15, National Defense Act.
Ayan, okay.
I think parang modernization, no?
Oo, lahat tayo para dyan.
Oo,
ang publiko, mag-rally ho tayo para maipasa natin itong National Defense Act para po sa bayan natin yan. Ang ating definition ng ating baseline, kasama dyan sa Defense Act na yan, ang pagbabago ng anyo ng militar, ang paggamit ng reservist. Lumalaki po ang reservist natin at maraming artista sumasali sa pagiging reservist. Yan ay pang-anyaya sa inyong lahat na sumali kayo, yung mga bata, naka-capable pa. Kayong dalawa, bata pa kayo, mag-reservist kayo para handa ang ating bayan.
Pwede ako mag-drugs, ma'am.
Ma'am, drugs?
Okay, drugs.
Drugs.
My God, I hate
Advocate
drugs.
General.
Pasensya na, lokohan lang namin yung mga yan. Okay. Next.
Number 16 is mandatory reserve officers training corps NSDP. Ito yung mandatory ROTC.
Kayo ba yung produkto ng ROTC?
Hindi, ma'am.
Hindi na.
Ako, produkto ako ng CAT. Mali-mali nga ako ang marcha ko. Lahat ng batalyon nandun. Ako nandito sa kabila.
Ako
Kaya
2 stars
natutunan
lang.
ko ang disiplina. Kailangan ho ang disiplina sa bayan.
Gusto ko lang,
Bakit ka 2 stars?
kailangan ko malaman pa dun sa sponsors or kung bakit kailangan talaga. Yun lang.
Imagine nyo kung tayong lahat ang magda-draft nitong bill na to. Ang ganda. Ang ganda siguro niyan.
Oo, ang PUBLiKos nga pala, nagda-draft din kami ng mga bills. So,
nangingialam mo kami kahit dyan. Kaya,
bang gusto niyo, kailangan niyo ng tulong, sabihin niyo lang po kami.
di ba?
Number 17, this is enabling law for natural gas industry. I think specifically this is for LNG, no?
The importation.
So, it's something we know well. Kailangan ito.
Kailangan po yan. Another source ng ating enerhiya.
Tandaan natin, maubos ng malampaya within 2 to 5 years, depende kung sino tinatanong mo, no? Pero,
I would say 2 to 3.
Oh, yun. Tapos, of course, malampaya mismo yung nagsasupply ng ilang percent dito sa
Around
Luzon
20.
grid. Yun, so
25.
mga 1 out of 5 households yung sinasupply ng malampaya. So, yun nga, habang nagdidig tayo or nagdidrill tayo, we need to find other sources. And a good source is liquefied natural gas. Siguro
Isa rin hello ko kay Popolotilia. Magbigay ka na ng SG kasi malapit na. Naupuan ho yan ni Secretary Cusi. Kailangan ho tayo magbigay ng SG. New lines. Ano nga ang SG? Nakalimutan ko.
Salary grade.
Hindi, sir.
Kaya na sa isip ko eh.
Hindi, yung tungkol sa oil. SG contract.
SC, service contract?
Service contract mo.
Oh, yeah,
Yun.
SC, sorry. Service contract para magkaroon ng mga bagong malampaya. Marami pa po dyan sa katabi ng malampaya na deposito ng ating natural gas.
Just to add na with the capacity to import LNG, we would thus be able to diversify our energy sources because as it stands now, nandiyan yung malampaya, but the bulk of our energy needs, electricity needs, it's supplied by coal. So if
And coal is
fossil fuel,
which is
yung ano pa rin naman is counted.
bad to the environment. Ako na magsasabi kasi ayaw mong sabihin. Oo. Lalaban mo natin sa climate change. Oo. Si fossil, hindi ikaw.
Akala ko ako ma'am eh.
Si David Yap pala kalaban. Don't post that. Cut nyo yan. Joke lang, live ito. Number 18, amendment to the EPIRA, Electric Power Industry Reform Act.
Abolition of EPIRA.
2, kasi very broad yung kasabihan
gusto
na
nilang
yun.
gawin?
David and I know that law well from our days in the Senate. Parang anong i-amend si ma'am, parang klaro na i-repeal ang
Kasi
EPIRA.
alam ho nyo, ang EPIRA ipinasa para bumaba ang elektrisidad. Yan ho ang opening statement, yan ho ang explanatory note ng bill na yan, pero ano ho nangyari? Hindi ho bumaba. Nagkaroon pa ng problema dahil hiniwalay-hiwalay natin ang generation, transmission, distribution, etc. in the hope na bababa talaga. Pero nakita natin, ang laking debate ng stranded cost. Ang laking debate nung yung passing the operation cost.
Stranded cost?
Sunk cost.
Sunk cost.
Sunk cost nga pala.
So makikita nyo na
Sa university.
marami naging problema tungkol doon. Ngayon, kung i-abolish ba natin, tatama? Hindi rin ho, pero kailangan pag-aralan na dapat yung solusyon na lehislatura ay dapat pumabor sa consumers.
Yun nga, so hindi pa maliwanag kung ano ba yung amendments na ito. And I'm always wary of the possibility that we could go back to the nationalization of
You are not favor?
I would not be in favor of the renationalization.
I am in favor. 3.
Yun.
Renationalization of water
ayoko
and
ng-
electricity.
Siguro, one of these days, magandang debate.
Debate,
Yun. Parang,
They
siguro
have
bagong
to-
segment natin yun.
Oo.
Debate.
Debate sa publiko.
And the last on our list is the amendment of the Build, Operate, Transfer Law. Ito medyo need more details
Oo.
Ako
also.
rin, I
ganyan
need
din
more
ako.
details
Wala
kung
ako.
what
Kasi ang dami ng BOT, build, operate, transfer, build, operate, ano pa yung isa? Ang daming permutations na ho ng BOT na hindi natin maintindihan ano bang kinukure talaga. Yung kawalan ng pera para tayo ng kung ano mang proyekto o yung pagtagal ng pag-transfer to government dahil sa toll,
Sa profit,
etc.
sa
Oo,
profit
ayan.
ng ano.
But I would give it 3 stars if the end effect would be na lumakas yung PPP. Because I think
Pabor ka sa PPP.
for ODA, yes, definitely.
Oo. Pero ako, I would rather want government sinking their funds to it as part of the, what do you call that? The equity.
Which is why two kaming lahat kasi very technical yung issue na yan, yung usapang BOT, PPP, ODA, kaya kailangan mga details pa. Siguro pag-uusapan yon sa 19th Congress.
That's right.
So I think we've run a bit longer than we wanted to, and Ma'am Malu has several interviews pa
Sa
tonight.
tingin ko na-cancel na, nagalit na.
Baka galit na, wala yung phone niya dito. Pasensya na po
Pero mas
kayo.
gusto ko sa publiko muna, diba?
So this has been our PUBLiKO. Any last comments though? First of all, may ba kayong gustong idagdag about the SONA or anything in general?
Ako, I think I've said
Too much.
Okay na.
Too much.
Di pa. I haven't said enough.
Kaya mo
Sa akin lang, on behalf of Publicos, nagpapasalamat kami at sumama kayo sa aming maikli at simpleng pagrepresenta ng first State of the Nation address ng ating Pangulo, 17th President, si President Bongbong Marcos. Nakita po natin kung paano niya i-deliver, pinaghandaan, at nais niyang sabihin sa ating lahat kung ano ang estado ng ating bansa. Hindi po siya mayabang na nagsabi na the state of our nation is good or the state of our nation is great. Ang sinabi lang po niya, the state of our nation is sound. Malaking bagay po yan sa mga policy, kami hong tatlo'y policy wonks, malaking bagay yan pag muni-munian kasi yung soundness, may mga criteria ho yan para masabi mong sound ang isang fiscal plan, ang isang infrastructure plan. Ang dami po niyang sinabing plano, nasa level ng activities at nasa level ng plano. So, tingnan po natin sa susunod na mga araw kung paano pa lalamnan na maigting ang kanyang mga plano. So, salamat sa pagsama ninyo at salamat at nagkasama-sama kaming tatlo sa isang simpleng pamaraan para namin tulungan ang bansang ma-explain sa inyo kung ano ang kanyang mga sinabi.
Ma'am, bago yun ma'am, ano ang state of publicus?
The state of publicus is strong.
Ayan, galing mismo sa aming ang aming boss, the chief executive officer, the founder, of course, Malu Tikia. On behalf of everyone at PUBLiKO Asia Incorporated and our very talented team, Pax, Jag, Melvin, Edward, and Will, we would like to thank you for joining us today. This is it for now, but we will be back soon. I think siguro gagawa tayo ng mga ganitong live stream. Gusto din namin kayo samahan sa mga iba't ibang discussion about politics, about policy, bills, legislation throughout this 19th Congress and even further. But with that, thank you for joining PUBLiKO sa SONA 2022 and have a good night, everyone. Thank you.